History happened everywhere.
The verdict.
This is our after-show podcast where we look back at the most recent episode 103, Water in Abu Dhabi during the 1970s. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and check it out, or else you will find spoilers ahead.
I didn't get the bit at the start. I didn't get the reference.
Oh, there's SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, I see. I didn't get that at all.
She's like, can I get you anything? And he says, water would be nice.
And what relevance is it?
It's water, isn't it?
It's a water-based episode.
Oh, I see.
Hello, my name is Pete Goddard and I'm here in the HHE studio with the damp squib to my wet and wild water ride. It's Mr. Ryan Weir.
That's right. I am a little damp today, and that's just because I'm sweaty.
Why are you so hot, Ryan?
Yeah.
Is a thing I'm sure you get told all the time.
All the time, yeah.
And of course we're joined as ever by the decider of Derby dampness. It's the judge himself, Mr. Paul Dursley.
Derby dampness? What's that? What's Derby dampness?
Dampness in Abu Dhabi, isn't it?
Oh, I see. I thought you were going to do lavatorial jokes again.
Well, we ran out. We used them all.
We gave you the full load. Now, Ryan, I spent all last week driving back and forth over a bridge waiting for it to sing to me. And as a result, I've forgotten everything about the last episode. So could you remind me what happened in about 60 seconds?
Yeah, I can absolutely do that, but I need to know when.
Now.
Splish, splash, splosh, Pete. That's the sound of you and me wading through a reservoir of watery facts to bring the listeners everything they needed to know about water in Abu Dhabi during the 1970s. And we kick things off in style with a deep dive into the oil-rich emirate itself, learning about its transformation from a vast sandy landscape into a vast sandy landscape, but with a skyscraper skyline. Then we swam back in time to meet the people who carved out a life there long before five-star hotels and luxury malls were even a twinkle in a Bedouin's eye, all before we rolled up our trouser legs and waded into the serious stuff, talking about the tricky construction of Abu Dhabi's first port, which dredged up mountains of sand to receive a boatload of toilets, and we heard about one man's remarkable vision for the future, which required the development of a road bridge to be built before the existence of any roads that could lead to or from it. And if you thought we might run dry, we also served up a desert feast, talked of plans to launch a Martian colony, and discovered how a big round bottom hit just the right note for the Abu Dhabi anthem. It was water, it was Abu Dhabi, it was the 1970s. Last week's episode done, summarised nicely, nice one son. Now we're over to a young Dursley who's gonna tell you what he thought of thee. He'll take you apart without any care. He's the lovely Paul Dursley, the lovely Paul Dursley.
Yes, I remember it all now. It's come flooding back to me. I enjoyed it very much and it truly slaked my thirst for knowledge. But who cares what I think? We're here for the opinion of just one man, Judge Dursley. So, Paul, before we go on to the verdict, what are your first impressions of the episode? What did you come away thinking?
I had low expectations, to be honest. I must admit, it's not the part of the world that I'm particularly enamoured with, so I went in with some baggage.
I always liked when the countries that we talk about appear in the news, and Abu Dhabi appeared in the news, and on topic by having a fire at its water world after the recording.
Yeah, in a water park of all places.
Well, exactly. It very much reminded me of the IT Crowd episode where the man has a date with a woman whose parents die in a fire at SeaWorld, and he's driven crazy with the idea of how do you have a fire in a water world?
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Well, I like the idea of introducing fire to a water park. I mean, it just adds an extra element of danger as you're slipping and sliding all the way down.
Well, yeah, you just put a bit of oil on the thing that you're going to zoom in, set fire to it.
Where are you going, Pete? I'm going on the backdraft ride.
That is an innovation. Water park is now a fire and water park.
Those two should not mix, as we know.
I don't know. I'm inclined to check it out. That might be my suggestion to Disney for their next park.
All right, so guys, during the episode, we talked about 2 mega construction projects in Abu Dhabi.
We did.
But there was one other thing that I discovered during my research, but obviously couldn't bring it to the main show because it wasn't from the same time period. That is the Strategic Water Reserve, also known as the Liwa Aquifer.
Ooh, Tell me more.
Basically, the Liwa Aquifer is a giant secret underground lake, and it contains roughly 5.5 billion gallons of water.
How do you know about it then if it's secret?
He's blown the gaff. Men come for Ryan at the end of the episode.
Picturing me hacking away at my laptop trying to get secret files. Yeah, it contains roughly 5.5 billion gallons of water, this aquifer. If you poured it out over Central Park in New York, it would make a lake about 70 feet deep.
And how many Olympic swimming pools is that?
A lot.
I think the Olympic swimming pool is the measure. It's the France of water.
It is. Yeah, now it's not entirely man-made. In fact, it's mostly natural. It makes use of this natural formation of sandstone, which is surrounded by layers of rock and clay, to create essentially like a basin underground. But sandstone is porous, so it acts like a giant sponge, and the water just goes into the sandstone and it sits within there. The clay and the rocks that surround the sandstone then stop other liquids from seeping into it. So what the engineers did was they found this big bowl underground, and so they modified it slightly. They reinforced it to store massive quantities of water. And so every night they pump fresh water 260 feet underground into the sandstone, where it sits there at a temperature of around 4 degrees Celsius, which stops bacteria and other things from growing in it. And then, if ever there's an emergency and the Emirate of Abu Dhabi needs that water, they just pump the water back out of the sandstone and distribute it out through a pipe network. Now, we did talk about it being a secret, and it is. It is a military-grade secret, apparently, but not the fact that it exists. It's the location that's the secret. The reason for that is if you're a desert city and you've got a huge stash of water somewhere, you want to keep that secure. But we do know that it's hidden. We know that it's underneath the sands of the Rub al-Khali, otherwise known as the Liwa Desert or the Empty Quarter. And it's kept secure via a series of control systems, all of which are kept off the internet, and they're buried in bomb-proof bunkers, access to which apparently are disguised as like little huts and other desert structures out in the middle of nowhere. But not just that, they also have these seismic sensors which are in the ground, and they detect if anyone is digging anywhere within 5 kilometers of the lake.
Wow.
So they can go out and tell them to stop. But yeah, talking of digging, you know how I said that Abu Dhabi has plans to build a spaceport?
You did, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, NASA apparently is studying this Liwa Aquifer as part of their Mars subsurface water ice mapping project. Apparently the sandstone under Abu Dhabi is supposedly very similar to what's under the Martian surface. Now, the good news is, for the people of Abu Dhabi, is that there is a phase 2 of the Aquifer project currently underway. The goal is to expand the reserve to 20 billion gallons of water by the year 2030. And that amount of water would, if you poured it over Central Park in New York, would make a lake about 280 feet deep, almost covering the Statue of Liberty.
But the Statue of Liberty is not in Central Park.
You'd move it and use it as a dipstick.
Yeah. Apparently it's going to be enough water to support 2.5 million people for 6 months. Amazing. Anyway, it's all so impressive that the Saudi Arabians are building their own, and so are the people of Arizona in America too. So there's going to be these underwater aquifers everywhere, all thanks to Abu Dhabi.
Oh, wow. I'll be out there with a bent stick.
Or a long straw.
Bent stick and a long straw. It starts twitching. I drill down quickly, poke my straw in. It's all mine.
I drink your aquifer. I drink it up.
That was a film reference, Paul.
Oh, was it? I thought he was doing Brian Blessed.
Well, Ryan, I'm glad you mentioned water under the desert, because I got kind of into the whole water in Abu Dhabi thing, because they've got a bit of a challenge, haven't they? They are a very dry nation. They're a desert country. They've got...
I thought you meant alcohol.
Well, a bit of both, really. I
Yeah.
think they're not entirely dry, but they're certainly not dishing out beers in the corner pub like they do here. Yeah, water is a resource problem in a way that we don't have it in the UK, for sure. We're more likely to complain about the rain than do anything else.
I would challenge that, actually.
You think we have bigger problems than Abu Dhabi?
No, that's not what you said. That's not what you said. But the eastern part of England, where Ryan and I hail from, is the driest part of England, and there aren't that many reservoirs. And people in sort of Suffolk and Essex have to import their water from the West Midlands. So we're perfectly at the mercy of the mayor of the West Midlands to see whether we survive.
That's very true. There are Bedouins in Abu Dhabi that are grateful not to have the hosepipe ban that we had in Essex.
Well, in any event, water is a serious issue in Abu Dhabi, and as you mentioned, desalination, Ryan. About 24% of Abu Dhabi's water is desalinated water. 70% or thereabouts is from groundwater. But even the groundwater is not great. 90% of the groundwater is saline. In some cases, it's 8 times saltier than seawater. So even water that's coming through the ground.
Might as well use seawater.
Well, exactly.
There's a lot of seawater too.
There's plenty of that, but I read there's only 2 freshwater aquifers in Abu Dhabi. But there is one area that is famous for fresh water anyway, and that's a place called Al Ain.
Yes, Al Ain, the desert oasis.
The desert oasis, exactly. It's a town, it's an oasis, it's everything you want it to be. And this is a place that's taken advantage of a source of fresh water, and it's channeled, and has been channeled for centuries, down the slopes from the water source in a series of channels. Most of these channels are underground to reduce the evaporation of the water as it travels.
So they're pipes.
Essentially pipes. Obviously, they're not plastic. They've been around since the Iron Age. And they supply fresh water to an oasis called Ain Oasis, unsurprisingly. And there they cultivate over 80,000 date palm trees. So it's created a nice little green area in an otherwise quite sandy zone. And in fact, they claim that the Al Ain Afflage is the oldest in the world. There's a difference of opinion depending on how you measure it, but it's so significant to them that it's now a UNESCO cultural site, the oasis itself. But it's also the Al Afflage system of pipes and learning how to repair and maintain the pipes and community knowledge has been added in 2020 to the UNESCO representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity.
Wow. So wait, they were digging pipes underground during the Iron Age?
So they reckon that about 1000 BC they've dated it back to.
They should have made them out of iron.
It would have been. I say, if they'd done a sturdy plastic from the get-go, those things would still be absolutely fine. But no, they start with mud bricks, I think.
That would have been the mud brick age then.
Well, yes, true, I suppose. But just in case you thought Al Ain was just about historic water, no, sir, it is not. Al Ain is also the brand name of one of the most well-known and popular brands of bottled water in the Emirates.
Evian and Perrier and those others. Al Ain is another one, is it?
Exactly. You nip to the shops and there you go, in the fridge, a big bottle of Al Ain mineral water for you. And I looked at their website. They have a range of waters for the distinguished palate, including, and this surprised me, Al Ain Zero.
Zero? What's in that? It's just an empty bottle.
Exactly.
Is it just air?
No, it turns out that Al Ain Zero is their no sodium water. So it turns out you can still take stuff out of even the barest of ingredients.
Well, that's cool.
Yes, it is.
Especially if it's been in the fridge.
So I actually was going to do a whole different section than what I ended up doing about the bridge, Ryan and Paul, which was I wanted to talk about the Hilton Hotel. And it all started when I was kind of researching around and I just came across this image that was incredible. It was this big building, big rectangular building, looked kind of like a little bit like a prison actually, but it was actually the Hilton Hotel, the first 5-star hotel in Abu Dhabi. And this picture is just this hotel, and then all around it is nothing. It's just this hotel,
just total
and
desert.
then just flat desert around it. It's a really striking image because it's so odd to have this 5-star hotel just emerging out of nothing. So I found out a bit more about the hotel, and I was hoping to find a snappy water connection, but I didn't really, other than the fact that it had a swimming pool, but that was about the only water I could get.
This was 1970s then?
This was opened in 1973, and you'll never guess who opened it, wielding the gold scissors. It's Sheikh Zayed.
Is it Sheikh Zayed?
It's Sheikh Zayed again.
Oh, wow.
The man was everywhere. So he shows up, much as he was the man who opened and crossed the bridge that we talked about. He also opened
the port.
And he opened the port. He also opened the Hilton Hotel, did a nice little tour, had a nice lunch, which apparently included a centerpiece on the table, which was a model of the Makta Bridge.
Ah, no way.
Yeah.
Nice link.
Yeah, this hotel was 10 floors, about 180 rooms. It had a bowling alley, outdoor pool, air-conditioned cabins. It was just really luxurious, and it was the sort of beginning of this growth, really symbolic of that growth. So I read an article, and they had an interview with the food and beverage manager for the hotel at that time. He said, smoked salmon, that was a big story. And the vegetables that are today in every supermarket and back streets of Dubai were then a novelty. So
really? Wow.
Really the beginning of something. So for a while, the Hilton was the place to be. But obviously other things moved in, and now there are, of course, thousands or hundreds, certainly, of hotels in the area. I think there's over 170 hotels. It's got the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, and there's even a 7-star hotel, the Emirates Palace.
No, there isn't.
There is even what claims to be a 7-star hotel.
There's no such thing. 5 stars as the top.
So this is another rabbit hole that I started to go down, and Paul is quite right. The truth is that stars are actually meaningless, really. There is no official body that sits out dishing out stars. There's a certain amount of self-regulation and self-identification. There are some bodies that do star-type evaluations. But yes, 7 stars is more of a marketing exercise than a thing that people can officially get. But it worked on me.
Yeah, 7 stars.
7 stars. I don't know what you have to have, a helipad or something to get that kind of level of evaluation.
So it's not there anymore then, this Hilton?
No, the Hilton is still there. What it isn't is a Hilton anymore.
It's the prison!
And it is now actually a Radisson Blue, I believe.
Oh, that's cool. So it's still in action. I can only imagine that when they built it, there was no real plumbing, sewage or any of that, because it's just built in the middle of a desert.
Well,
so
I think this was it.
the infrastructure can't have been there to hook it up.
No, I suspect it was all part of the sort of general development, right? So I think they must have plumbed it, because to have air conditioning and pool and everything, they must have had
Well, you
plumbing.
built the infrastructure first.
Yeah.
The hidden infrastructure first. So the first things that you would build are sort of the underground electricity and the water pipes.
Talking of sewage, though, and the Hilton, the toilets that were brought in from the great toilet debacle of 1972, that was for the Hilton.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you recall, the toilets were brought in to supply the first luxury hotel. That would have been the Hilton.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course it would be, wouldn't it?
Give us a toilet pun, Paul.
Now you put me on the spot. Go on the. You have put me on the pan.
Oh. Right, you know what is illegal in the UAE?
Murder.
Yes.
Kidnapping.
Yes.
Mugging.
Yes.
Virtually anything.
This could take a while, couldn't it? Cutting down a tree.
Oh.
Yeah, it's illegal in Abu Dhabi, and I'm not talking about any old tree. I'm talking specifically about the Ghaf Tree.
Is that a brand of tree or a single individual tree?
It's a species.
Ah.
Yeah, you can't cut them down. Even if they're growing on your own land, you cannot touch them. Apparently, a single Ghaf tree can live for over 120 years, and it survives on just 2 inches of rain a year. And it does this by growing roots up to 100 metres, really deep. And the really cool thing is, though, is for them to get down that far, they actually have evolved this type of oxalic acid that dissolves through limestone. So basically it mines their way through the ground down to the water, which is trapped underneath the bedrock.
Wow.
Yeah. But if the roots don't get down there, the tree also has another way of collecting water, and that's from its leaves. So the leaves close up during the day, because obviously the sun is really hot and would just burn them. And then at night, they open back up, and the water condenses on it, forms dew, and it soaks that through into the tree as well. In fact, it can soak up to 5 litres of water a night.
Wow.
Well, that's also how to get water in the desert yourself.
Yeah, suck a Ghaf tree, you're in business.
Well, no, you sink a bucket in the ground,
Okay.
and then you would put something like a waiter's cagoule or something over it, so there's a point, and then the condensate would actually appear on that point and drop into the back of it, and you would have enough water to survive.
I'm just going to put this out there, Pete. A Paul Dursley survival episode podcast would be an amazing listen.
I would listen to the episode for the duration of his life, which would be one episode.
Surviving Wild with Bear Dursley.
And look, I came and saw you in Croydon once. What else do you expect?
That is true.
He's walked on the wild side. We should give him that.
All right, well, there you go. Anyway, look, as to why the Ghaf Tree is so protected, it's because it's considered a keystone species in the desert. It provides shelter for around 32 other plant species. Oh, and an underground desert fungi too. Apparently it's a fungi which links up with the tree and stretches out 10 times wider than the roots. And that fungi brings nutrients to the tree, which is why some Ghaf trees apparently look dead for years, but they're not. They suddenly burst into life. And so some people cut these trees down thinking they're dead, but they're actually not. It's so special, in fact, the Ghaf tree, that the Bedouins call it the tree of life. And for a good reason, because they use the leaves to feed their camels, which boosts milk production in the camels by 20%. And they mix the tree sap with dates as a cure for dysentery. And because they live for such a long time, these Ghaf trees are used as a kind of a natural marker as well for getting around the desert. So if you were to cut one down, some poor people wandering around the desert looking for their marker, their tree, would be incredibly lost.
Oh, man.
In fact, there is one tree in Abu Dhabi known as the GPS tree because it's been used for the past 500 years as like a marker for where to go. In fact, it's illegal even if you want to just trim it. Apparently, to trim it, you need to first get an ecologist to come out and check the tree, and then submit a report to officials proving that the tree won't suffer, and then they'll grant you a permit to be able to do so. But if you decide against doing all that, you could receive a fine of up to 50,000 dirham, about £10,000, about $13,000, potentially end up in prison for 2 years. And that has happened. In 2021, one farmer was fined 100,000 dirham for damaging a Ghaf tree while digging a well. And there was a property developer in Abu Dhabi who was fined 200,000 dirham, who removed 14 trees to build some new villas.
Bad. Boo, property developer. Boo. Was he twirling his moustache as he did it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Apparently there's an initiative underway at the moment to go and plant 2 million trees by the end of this year.
What, all Ghaf trees?
All Ghaf trees, yeah, across the desert. And they're doing it really interesting. They're using drones to drop seeds across the desert. And apparently the seeds have a 40% survival rate when dropped by drone.
That's very, very good.
It's very good compared to just 5% when being planted by hand.
Probably that's because naturally, I assume the trees are quite tall, so they would float down.
I guess that's probably the case. Amazing stuff. Anyway, there you go. The Ghaf tree. I will not be cutting one down.
No, indeed. I haven't got that kind of money. Sounds great, though. Well done, Ghaf tree.
I just feel sorry for whoever is using them as markers and then suddenly there's 2 million of them across the desert.
Yeah. Turn left at the Ghaf tree. What?
Going around in circles.
Yeah.
I talked earlier about water from underground, and I also mentioned that they use desalinated water. The problem with desalination is it's very, very energy intensive. So they're doing various research projects to try and bring that down. So they're doing a lot of work to try and make the energy cost of desalination cheaper and combine it with solar power, because obviously a place like that has not a lot of water, but quite a lot of sunshine. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about was they're also looking at other ways to obtain water or to improve their water sources.
Okay.
Their investment in squeezing water out of clouds.
Squeezing water out of clouds?
Squeezing water out of clouds. So basically this is cloud seeding, which I'm sure Paul has heard of.
You've got to have clouds first of all, haven't you?
Yes, you absolutely do have to have clouds first of all. So what happens is they've got a weather team that monitor the weather, and when they find a likely looking cloud, they get on the phone to the pilots and they say, hey pilots, get in your plane. They drive their plane up to the cloud.
Left of the Ghaf tree.
Left at the first Ghaf tree, turn right at the second Ghaf tree. And then when they get into the clouds, they've got flares strapped all along their wings, and those flares contain about 1 kilo of a salt. So they burn this salt into the atmosphere. So the salt molecules, I guess, or particles eject into the cloud, and they cause the water to condense into bigger droplets around the seed, hence cloud seeding, and it enables them to cause rain where the water wouldn't normally have rained out.
Cloud seeding is notoriously difficult. The Soviets tried it.
Yeah, but the Abu Dhabi are doing it in quite a significant way. In I think it was last year, they did more than 1,000 hours of cloud seeding. And they are this year playing host to the International Rain Enhancement Forum, or Ryan, I think you'd rather know it as the Global Weather Control Cabal.
Oh, really? That's what they're called?
No, they're not called that. They're called the International Rain Enhancement Forum. But yeah, they're where they're studying and talking about ways to do cloud seeding. So it doesn't like give you masses and masses of new water. It increases the output by, I think I was reading 10 or 20%. So you're looking at marginal improvements. There's some debate as to the particles that they use. So the original particles they were using weren't just plain old salt. There was potentially harmful chemicals. But the guys in Abu Dhabi are saying they only use natural salt now. But it's an area of some research. But I thought you'd enjoy it because it involves weather control.
But rainwater is not salty. But if they're using sodium chloride and things, surely the water will be then salty and they'd have to desalinate it.
Oh, that's a good question. Or maybe the particles are sufficiently small that it doesn't matter. I shall have to attend the Global Rain Enhancement Forum and ask a few pointed questions for the next episode.
Ghaf. Is it Ghaf? Welcome to Ghaf. That's amazing, though. It is incredible what humans can do, right? Not only strip out salt from water, but also use that same salt to make water. Bonkers.
Yeah, I do worry about the weather control because it's one of those complex systems that you always think of the butterfly flapping its wings. You take a bit of extra rain out here. What's happening further down the weather control system? I don't know. But it's probably not the worst thing we've done to the environment so far. So I guess we can't blame them for trying to squeeze a little bit of water out of the clouds that they have. That's a great job, though. Can you imagine? What do you do for a living? I seed clouds. I squeeze the rain out of clouds. And so we come to the end of the line, and it is time to step into the dock and prepare to face the people's judge. Judge Dursley, are you ready to give your verdict?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and will the defendant please rise?
I've risen.
I shall rise too. Your Honour, as usual, we'll start proceedings by first asking for your verdict on factual content.
You have put in a gallimaufry of factoids.
Wow, that's great.
So, as I said, I came into it with low expectations. So, I was pleasantly surprised. I learned some things, and it's interesting to see people in the Middle East doing some things for good rather than for show.
And do you have a grade then for factual content?
You're not going to like it. I shall give you C+.
What? That didn't feel like a C+.
Felt like a B to me, but okay, moving on. The next category is entertainment value. Paul, did you have a good time?
I was tickled at times.
We did devote an entire sketch to toilet humour, which we had targeted directly at you.
And I sang you a song.
Do you want to repeat that song?
No. My voice nearly broke.
Oh dear. That's an easy one then. E.
What?
This is an outrage. Shocking. The next category is the mysterious Dursley factor. Did it ring your bell? Did it make your toes tingle?
No is the answer to that. So
It's not just about toe tingling, it's about just how it gels with the Dursley persona.
well, I actually was impressed with the episode. I think you were fortunate in the date range and location and subject. But I will give you B.
Oh, wow.
Nice, that's a B, Ryan. Take it. Now we're into the main event. Before the judge passes his final ruling, though, Ryan, you have an opportunity to enter a plea. If you choose to do so, please plea now.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think the episode stands on its own.
All right. So, Your Honour, the defendant stands before you. Have you reached your verdict?
Yes, I have.
So I ask respectfully for your final ruling.
Well, I think it deserves a B-.
Yes!
All right.
Nice!
Okay.
Woo!
I love it. Challenge!
All right. Well, Ryan, are you happy?
Yeah, I am actually. I think that's good.
I'm happy too. And that's good because that is our show for this week. Now, if anyone out there would like to get in touch about any of the things we've talked about or just want to say hello, reach out to us on social media through our website, hhepodcast.com, or you can email Pete and Ryan at hhepodcast.com.
Yeah, that's right. We'd love to hear from you, and you never know, you might end up featured on a future show.
And you can definitely feature if you rate and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you recommend us there, really helps bring the show to new people, new listeners, new audience.
That's right. Now, if you are on Mastodon, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, any of those, you can find us at HHE Podcast. And if you subscribe to those, you're going to get an alert every time we post any trivia tidbits, news, and photos.
And of course, we'll be back soon with our next episode, number 104, Literature in Morocco during the Vedic era, which is 1500 to 500 BCE. But in the meantime, a huge thank you to the judge himself. Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure, as ever.
And that is it. I guess all that's left to say is...
You've been listening to... So, guys, during the episode, you'll recall that I talked about the reshaping of the seafloor to accommodate the new shipping port.
Yes, was it deep enough was the captain's concern, right?
Exactly, yeah. The people of Abu Dhabi brought in the Dutch to dig out and dredge the seafloor. Well, there's some reshaping is happening again. It turns out that Abu Dhabi is building one of the most expensive coral reefs on the planet. It's called Project Blue Oasis, and it's been underway since 2018, and so far has cost $1.5 billion.
Wow.
They are putting over 500,000 tiles on the seafloor.
They're turning it into a big swimming pool.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, well, these are 3D printed tiles, but each tile is kind of special. They cost around $3,000 each, and they're made from a mix of concrete with crushed oyster shells, which apparently are irresistible to coral larvae. And once the tiles are down there, these deep sea robots are sent down to gently place lab-grown coral species onto these tiles to attach and grow on those. The sensors also, by the way, the reason they cost so much money is because they've got a whole bunch of sensors in them as well. They measure things like temperature, the salinity of the water, fish populations, all of these things. So all in all, it's a really expensive and very sort of tech-savvy piece of kit. And since 2018, since they started, apparently biodiversity in these areas where they've been placing these tiles has jumped up by 40%, including a return of the leatherback turtles.
Oh.
So, you know, really good news.
Another turtle. That's amazing. And was that the point of it, to try and increase the biodiversity? It wasn't just to create a tourist attraction or anything?
Yeah, it's not a tourist attraction. It is purely just for the environment.
Oh, good on them. I like a place that's thinking about the environment a little bit, and these guys have A, the money, and B, the incentives to make sure that they don't do anything silly.
Electronics in water, though, terrible idea. Last time I took a toaster in the bath, didn't work at all.
Well, is it fortunate for you? I don't know.
Hey!
Not necessarily fortunate for you, Paul. Still have to listen to the podcast, I'm afraid.
Actually, you need a surprisingly small amount of current to kill you in the bath.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's something like 5 milliamps.
What would that power?
5 1,000ths of an amp. So not very much at all.
Right. Well, there you go. Don't take any electronics into the bath.
There you go. Words to live by from HHE Podcast's Life Advice Line. I'm drowning. Hello, lovely YouTube folks. This is a special message just for you.
Yeah, thanks for listening all the way to the end.
Now, if you enjoyed the show, please let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
And don't forget to take a moment to hit that like and smash subscribe.
Hit that like.
Yeah.
Smash subscribe.
Yeah, that's what people say.
Do they, though?
Yeah, only the cool kids.
And you think you're the cool kids, do you?
No, we're the cool kids.
Oh, yeah, I suppose we are. All right, smash that like button, people. Smash it real good.
Oh, yeah. Nice.